All right, so today we're going to look at birds, bats, and pterosaurs. So they all flew, they all had wings. So are they closely related? And are they closely related to us? Well, we're going to look at the bones, and that's how we're going to find out. So we see bird, a pterosaur, and a bat. Pretty sure you know which one is which, right? So they all have wings. They're all capable of flight. So they should be related. We can group these together, right? We can call it the flying group of animals. Well, it's not really how we do things in science. So we have to figure out how closely related and how closely related these are to each other and to other animals, like let's say us, for instance. Let's start with our bones. Let's look at our arm bones here. So we have in purple there, we have our humerus. So that's our funny bone. That's this bone right here. Okay? And when you bang your bone down here on your elbow, you're banging the end of your humerus, which is why that's so funny. So we have our radius and our ulna, that's our wrist bones, right? So there's two of them there. So why do we have two? Why do we have a radius and an ulna? Well, that's so we can do this. So if we couldn't rotate our wrist, that would be a lot harder to do things. I can more easily manipulate and move my hand around if I can rotate my wrist, right? If you feel in there, you can feel the two bones. You feel one on this side and one on this side. So the one on the side of your thumb, that's your radius, and this one outside here is your ulna. So that allows us to rotate our forearm. That's really helpful. And there in the blue, you can see that is our carpals. That's the bones in our wrist here. So there's lots of little bones that are fused together in our wrist. And then we have the bones inside our palm. So we call those metacarpals. So if you feel inside there, you can feel that there's like a long finger-like bone. Like for each finger, you've got one of these metacarpals. And last but not least, and this is important to our talk today, is we've got our phalanges, our fingers. Right? So how many does a human have? We all know that. That's 5. Right? So let's compare that to something else. Cool. So this is a pterosaur. So pterosaurs are flying reptiles, long extinct. These things died off 65 million years ago when the dinosaurs died off. So they look like dinosaurs, but these aren't dinosaurs. So at the beginning of the dinosaur evolution, the reptile class split off into multiple groups. But one group was pterosaurs, and one group ended up being the dinosaurs. They look a lot like dinosaurs, but they're not. And look how odd that wing is. It's not like anything we see today, is it? Do you notice anything really weird about it? So here we have a little comparison of us versus the pterosaur. So when we compare bone for bone, we see a humerus, like in the human, and we see in dark purple the humerus on the pterosaur. Now let's go to our radius and ulna. That's our green and our red bones up there. That's our forearm bones, right? So on the pterosaur, that's that light purple bone. Okay? And then in the little red section of the pterosaur, that is the carpals, like what we would have in our wrist. Okay? We're not even a third of the way through the wing here, and we're already from the shoulder all the way up to here. Okay? So now look in orange on the pterosaur. So that's the metacarpals, right? That's these bones that are, like that make up our palm. It's almost like fingers inside of our palm. Well, that's one big bone on the pterosaur. That's fused together. Well, now let's look at the phalanges. These are even weirder. So how many phalanges do you see? Well, it depends on how you want to count it. So if you look, there's three little phalanges that are pointing up with claws on them on the pterosaur. And what is that we see? Oh, sorry, three. Hold on. Yeah. So 3 wing fingers, or 3 of those claws, right, on the pterosaur. And then if you'll look, you will see it's hard to miss that last finger. And I'm not flipping you off, I assure you. That's my ring finger, right? So that is the ring finger. That is an incredibly long ring finger. Half of that wing is just finger. So that is really strange and very different from a human, right? If you had a finger like that, you could just like tap someone on the shoulder like 3 rows up. Imagine all the fun things you could do with that. That's a heck of a finger. So here it's highlighting it as if you didn't already see it. That is one gigantic long finger. We call that the wing finger. Not a ring finger, it's the wing finger. Alright, so what do you think this is? It's the wing of a bird, right? We can all tell that. You can see the feathers. But look at the bones inside this wing. They are very strange compared to a human. So we remember our bones, right? Remember our bones? We've got our humerus, our radius and our ulna, our carpals, our metacarpals, and our phalanges, right? So we've got our humerus here at the bottom. Yep, the radius and ulna, just like we have it in our forearm. And then you can't see it in this diagram, but there are carpals there at the end of the radius and ulna. And then it gets weird after that. Well, really the carpals are weird too, but after the carpals it gets weird. So where's a metacarpal? Where are the phalanges? It's hard to even tell, right? I mean, you can make the argument that it's got one phalange, and don't forget this little section, it's in red on the screen. There is a little phalange up there, so don't forget about that guy. So it looks very different. It's hard to tell even what's what by the time you get to the carpals and past. But luckily I have a better diagram. So this is blown up, and you know, some of the bones are bigger than what they would be, and it's simpler, but this makes it easier to see. So we see the humerus on the human and the bird, pretty similar, right? The radius and the ulna, very similar, right? And the carpals in this one, kind of the same. You know, it's a little exaggerated, but yeah, they're about the same. The metacarpals, that's weird. That's just like 2 bones that are taking the place of the 5 in the human. There. And then the phalanges are also very strange. You've got the 2 main ones, and then you've got the wing, the one on the wing, right? That one in orange on the wing. So it has 3 phalanges altogether instead of 5 like us, or 4 like the pterosaur. Now let's look at the wing of a bat. That is pretty similar to a human, I think. Can you see the difference in the similarities? So we see the humerus in green, and in blue we see the radius and the ulna. Okay, that's like our forearm. And then after that we see in, it looks like orange, we see the carpals, the wrist bones. In the red we see the metacarpals, that would be like the bones inside its palm, right? And then we see phalanges, right? How many phalanges do we see? Well, I count 1, it's thumb up there at the top, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5, just like us. And heck, if you look at it, it almost just looks like a hand, right? So its fingers have spread out, and that is what the wing membrane attaches to. So it has a soft wing membrane. I don't know if anyone's ever held a bat or seen a bat up close, but their wings are very thin. They look very delicate. And it has those fingers spread out along inside that membrane, and that does a lot of things for it. It helps keep it strong, it helps support it, and it allows it to make lots of small adjustments. If you've ever seen a bat fly, they do not fly like a bird. They do not glide and kind of dip and dive. They can just change directions and go any which way in just a split second. And those wing bones that would be, the same as our fingers, the phalanges, help it to do that. It gives it so much control. So here we have a bat wing and a bird wing. Obviously, you can just look at that and tell that's incredibly different. So the phalanges on this aren't very clear, but you've got 3 on the bird, 5 on the bat. So just looking at that, we can say, wow, these are not very closely related, right? And here we have the human as well. So when you see the human and the bat, the bones in the same diagram there, you can just see how similar they are. So this is something that scientists have used. This is a very important tool that we've used, where we look at the similarities, the differences, like just count the fingers, or let's see, where the fingers, the phalanges are located. Let's, see if we can find those same bones like we did here. We can find in all of those, we can find, what would be the equivalent of the humerus, the radius and ulna, the carpals, the metacarpals, and the phalanges. Across all of those species, all of those genus, I think these would all be different genus. Anyway, between all these different types of animals, we can compare the different bones. We can find similar bones, pretty much the same bones, and we can compare them in the way that they're set up to see how related these animals are. And we have a lot of tools now that help us do a lot of different things to tell how different animals are related. We've got DNA, we've got lots of things that we can use to help analyze these. Now, these don't help when we're looking at fossils. You can't get DNA from fossils, okay? So this is what we're left with. So comparing all these bones of animals that live now and all the bones that we find from fossils really help us to know what animals are related to each other and how they relate to each other. So now if we throw the pterosaur in here, you can look. So all the things on the left side of your screen, the human, the bird, the bat, so those are all living now. We can see examples of them, right? We don't have that luxury when it comes to the pterosaur. All we have are the fossils. So we can use the way the phalanges are set up to figure out how related this thing is to any of these other groups. These are actually so distantly related that it's very hard to compare the pterosaur to any of the others. And that's actually a very important point. If we look at reptiles, lizards, things like that, we can find more similarities with them compared to the pterosaur has more similarities to them than it does the human, the bird, or the bat. And just looking at the bones, we can tell a lot about that and about how they're not really related to us. They're very, very, very distantly related to us. So now we know a lot more about what we can look for in the bones to tell how different species are related. And this is what we have when we're looking at fossils. So without this, we can't really tell how related things are.